Don't get mad at me when I tell you this, but your before and after will not save you from being fat again.
Of course it won't. That's not what it's for. Those coins you get from AA also won't keep you sober. It's just an acknowledgement of accomplishment. It's not a tool.
I think the rise of Ozempic has made everyone so brazen and bold to talk about weight loss in such a fatphobic way. Listen, personally, I don't think it's my business, nor do I care.
If you don't care, I must be a little Russian girl.
What do you do with your body and if you lose or you gain weight? But I think posting about it is damaging for you and for the people who are looking at it.
Man, I forgot to think about how you would feel about what I use my account on my phone that I pay for on my internet that I pay for.
Try to understand why, and then I try to put myself in your shoes. And when I look at it from the grand scheme of things, from the big general perspective, it makes sense. Of course you want to post your before and after photos. Many see it as a notable accomplishment. So of course you're posting about your weight loss. It makes sense, right? And I don't blame you. I think that wanting to be part of this thinness club is something that society is pushing us all into.
Sure, society. Being able to breathe when I tie my shoes is pretty neat too, but yeah, society.
And then it turns to be that maybe one of the reasons that you post this is to inspire other fat people to lose weight. But then that's where you lose me, because I thought this whole process was for you. I don't know what the point of posting it is. We can see it. We see you have gotten into a smaller body now. What ends up happening and what you're showcasing is that you went from being the oppressed to being the oppressor.
Oh, yeah, there was so much oppression. You wouldn't believe how I was subjugating these biceps, absolutely discriminating against these deltoids. Hell, my lats are actually still under apartheid.
And you're okay with that. Now, here's the kicker. Statistically, proven by science, not by me, so don't get mad at me, you will gain the weight back in 2 to 5 years. Now, I've met a lot of friends who have gotten multiple surgeries and have done things to lose weight. And I met them years ago, and now they're back to their original weight, or some of them are probably a little bit even bigger than they were before.
It depends on the method. For example, this paper found that 72% of those who underwent RYGB, a type of gastric bypass, kept at least 20% of the weight off after 12 years. If the surgery doesn't work, it's usually because the overeating is due to a psychological problem. Therefore, a physiological alteration won't really address the issue.
Now you find yourself being back into the same body that you hated before, the one that you were claiming was the worst version of you. And I'm not here to shame or to scold anyone. I think that it's a reasonable thing to want to be part of this thinness club because society has made this the ideal place to be. We all think that thinness is where we're going to achieve self-love and careers and friendships and love, partners. And
oh man, all those things sound really neat. I mean, I had all those things as a fat person already, but what I didn't have was the ability to tie my shoes and breathe at the same time. I have that now, and it's really cool. Maybe I'll bring it up at my next meeting at this thinness club.
Of course, we all believe that, it's the long-going myth of what thinness will bring to you. But I think it's more important for you to be at peace with yourself. You're a member of the Thin Club now, but remember that your membership can be revoked at any moment.
That's not what the contract says.
And it'll push you back to the end of the line where you began. And the vicious cycle continues. I know this is a heavy topic, but I have spoken a lot more about this in depth in an essay on my Substack, All Things That with Just a Guitar. So if you want to talk more about this and you want to get my full opinions on this topic, go check out that essay. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
After watching that, I'm not sure I want your opinion on anything, actually. But thanks for offering.
Well, it's your own damn fault. You're so damn fat.
Hi, we need to have a conversation. I've seen more of this take in the past 3 days than I've seen in the past 6 months. I don't know what's happening, but somehow this conversion of thinking around fatness in leftist circles is happening, and we need to nip it in the bud. First, want to start by saying I love this creator. I love his music. He's very smart and does really interesting observational folk songs that I eat them up. They're great. But in this one, he's captured a thought process and a position that I've been seeing a lot lately that we need to talk about. Now, fat people have never been overly welcome in leftist spaces.
Fat people? Sure. Fat activists? I mean, I can't imagine why the people who were saying trust the science wouldn't be welcoming to a group of individuals who are asking them not to listen to literally every medical institution in existence.
Right? Traditionally, we've been sort of seen as like the pigs in a Miyazaki film. We are a representation of American capitalism, of overconsumption.
Yes, that's correct.
We just consume everything around us, eat up all the food, and exist in our sort of slovenly state where we just take whatever the government tells us and are glad to consume instead of create or help or be a part of community. But a lot of fat activists who find themselves in leftist circles have been yelling about this for years, right? And some leftists are taking note, particularly those who care about collective liberation,
The only thing fat people need to be liberated from is their own overconsumption.
care about issues like racial justice and gender justice and disability justice are like, oh, you know what? We've been pretty terrible to those fat people. We should probably do something about it. And so this is where this sort of secondary anti-fat position is coming from. And I'm going to tell you why it's still anti-fat. This position says, you know what? It's not your fault you're fat. I'm not going to blame it on you. It's not about consumption. It's the government's fault. The government didn't spend enough time and money teaching you how not to be fat.
Yes, that's correct.
They didn't teach you about exercise and nutrition.
Yes, that's correct.
And you know what? The government, their policies don't do enough to make healthy food cheap and affordable for most Americans.
No, that is wrong.
And that government, they overwork us. They let our bosses overwork us to the point where we don't have enough time to think about exercise.
And somewhat. The problem more so is more and more of us are doing jobs in which we don't engage in a ton of movement throughout the day.
It's not your fault. It's not personal choice. We're not going to blame you. We're going to blame the government. But the problem with this position is that it's still accepting the premise of the argument, which is that fatness is a bad, undesirable state of existence.
Yes, that's correct.
It's also accepting the premise that our weight and our health are somehow causally related.
Yes, that's correct.
Remember, correlation does not equal causation.
Correct, but there are ways to establish whether or not a correlation is causally related. For example, the demonstration of a mechanism. Here's an easy one. Sleep apnea. Fat deposits in the upper airway make them more narrow, which makes them easier to collapse during sleep. This collapse drops oxygen levels, narrowing the pulmonary arteries, raising the blood pressure and putting strain on the heart, often leading to things like cardiovascular disease and coronary artery disease. There's also techniques such as Mendelian randomization used to demonstrate a causal relationship, but let's continue.
And with things like the obesity paradox existing, the correlation has never even been proven correct.
The obesity paradox is a paradox precisely because the correlation exists. There's a laundry list of heart conditions associated with obesity, yet short-term, the obese fare better after cardiac events. Now, there's many reasons this is, such as, for example, the obese facing cardiac events at a younger age.
But when you assume that that's correct, you'll also often hear the next step in this sort of train of thinking, still talking about obesity, the obesity epidemic overwhelming healthcare systems and crippling healthcare systems and economies with the care of fat people. None of that sounds much like collective liberation to me. Because whether you have, mindless over-consumers who don't think about anybody else and just take what they're given in this society, or you have a group of people so poor and uneducated they don't know how to make responsible choices for their own bodies, right? He equates it to somebody choosing to be a smoker and not knowing what cigarettes do to them.
A valid comparison. I remember my mother talking to me about how her mother used to smoke with her in the car. Now, this is in the early 80s, well after a relationship between secondhand smoking and cancer had already been established, but the information wasn't out there to the degree it is today. Similarly, I don't remember hearing much about how to properly manage my caloric intake as a kid in school. I didn't even learn what a basal metabolic rate or total daily energy expenditure was or how to estimate mine until I became an adult. And even then, I had to go out and find that information myself.
Either way, you have this picture of fat people that are entirely dehumanized and removed of their own agency.
I mean, I'd say the opposite. I think being ignorant is just a part of the human experience.
The danger of continuing this point of seeing fatness as an undesirable state of being.
I mean, given that you people complain so much, what about being fat is desirable? Truly. What? The sleep apnea, not being able to breathe when you tie your shoes, being winded easily. What about being fat is desirable?
Means that the eventual goal, when you think of a leftist utopia, right? What if we think of a utopia of our ideal world, you know, the world that our collective liberation achieves, what does it look like? If you think that fatness as a state of being is undesirable, then your utopia imagines a future without fat people in it. You imagine us cured.
Yes, that's correct.
Or eradicated. And that dehumanization, that you're mindless over-consumers destroying our health system, or you're too poor and stupid to know the difference. That's the first step in making people feel okay about imagining a future where we don't exist. So how should you
Yes, I think a world in which humanity doesn't have to deal with the harms of obesity sounds wonderful, actually.
think about fatness as it relates to leftist politics and collective liberation? Much like disability. Disability is a state of body diversity that occurs naturally in human populations. It doesn't need to be cured or changed.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be cured. I'm sure all those blind people who had their sight restored are very happy with their decision.
We need to think of better ways to integrate people with disabilities into our culture, better ways to accommodate their needs, better ways to make the world accessible and a place that fits everyone, regardless of their body diversity. Fatness is also a naturally occurring form of body diversity. Bodies come in all different sizes. We do not need to eradicate or cure fatness. We need to include fat people in our organizing and imagine a world and a future where all our needs are met collectively.
Aw, diversity. Okay, let's say obesity is a natural part of human diversity. Fine. So is sickle cell. Imagine going to the doctor for the cure to sickle cell, and the doctor says to you, hey, I know it feels like someone poured hot grits in your vein, but I can't cure you. Don't you know sickle cell is a natural part of human diversity? Who gives a fuck? If we eradicate obesity, the planet is now less diverse. Got it. Less diversity, or I can have more diversity and have more type 2 diabetes, more CVD, more CAD, more non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, more gout, more hypertension, more high cholesterol, more cancer, more kidney disease, more sleep apnea, etc., etc., etc. I'm sorry, but even if everyone had to look like Mitt fucking Romney, I'd take the less diverse world 10 times out of 10.
It's crazy how everyone knows what eugenics is until it's time to talk about thinness and white supremacy. Then everyone's confused. Are y'all familiar with the term body mass index? Are you confused when you go to the doctor and you tell them that your leg hurts and they tell you to lose weight? Okay, you see how we're drawing parallels? Let's go. The body mass index was created by a Belgian mathematician. Not a doctor, not a physician, not a scientist, a mathematician. He created this index by taking a study of 2,500 white men, taking the average of their weight and then labeling that the average or ideal man. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I have nothing in common with the white man. What about you?
Well, I mean, considering I'm a male of the same species, I'd say I have quite a bit in common with them.
I was going to sit here and read y'all off the top of my head, but I found an article that just took the words out of my mouth. And this is no regular article. This is an article that was published in an academic journal by a medical professional.
Your caption says, since there's a rise of anti-intellectualism, allow me to give you a short lesson. Well, how about I give you one real quick? When you're reading papers online, you are allowed to Google the name of the author. In fact, some websites even let you click the author's name. If you had done that, you'd know that the author of this is not a medical professional. She's a sociology professor. Also, just because something is published in a journal doesn't mean it's necessarily on par with other academic papers. This specific one was published in the AMA Journal of Ethics. This journal has an impact factor of 0.7. If you're going to teach me a lesson, I'm going to need you to at least be correct on the things that I was able to find in 2 minutes.
So if you're the type to argue with facts or doctors, don't even waste my time.
I suppose it's good the author is not a doctor then, right? I feel like you should have known that when you can see the author's name didn't have MD or DO next to it. But please, continue.
The article is long, and I'm not going to read it to you because some of y'all need to practice reading, so pause and read. However, I do want to talk about a few quotes that caught my eye, like this one. The eugenics movement was validated by the standard weight tables. Those standard weight tables were now called BMI. And that BMI is a continuation of white supremacist embodiment norms, radicalizing fat phobia under the guise of clinical authority. So the next time a skinny person says, I'm skinny because I'm disciplined, I'm skinny because I don't want to die young, let them know that that's some bullshit. And you're just doing the white man's bidding. If your greatest fear is to be fat, you are doing the white man's bidding. I don't know how else we can say it. Race and weight were detrimental to what they were trying to do. And I'm going to leave you with this one. I'm going to link the article below, but please, I implore you to read this. Today, we treat obesity with a surprising seriousness, given its history. Fear of fatness did not begin as a medical concern. In fact, it took off in the mid-18th century. At that time, several race scientists began arguing that being too fat was bad, specifically because it had been linked to women of color. And just in case we forget what eugenics is, it is a better breeding by identifying qualities of the human race to be cultivated and defects of the human population to be eradicated through selective breeding. So now that we finished our little history lesson and we do understand the parallels of white supremacy and thinness, tell me, is it that deep as a minority person to say your greatest fear is getting fat? As we all say yes in unison?
Previously, I would have addressed this by getting into the weeds of historical narratives on obesity from historical academics, but there's no need for all that. Let's just accept the premise that some scientist roughly 200 years ago thought that obesity was bad because it was associated with women of color. Okay, premise accepted. Now to that, I have a question. Do you know why the sky is blue? Well, it's blue because God loves the infantry, right? No, obviously that's fucking stupid, but the entire statement isn't wrong. The sky is indeed blue, even if it's entirely unrelated to the infantry. Similarly, the ill effects of obesity have nothing to do with whether or not some guys who died before sliced bread was invented associated it with black women. Regardless, obesity fucking kills.
Star athlete Serena Williams promoting a weight loss drug was certainly not on my 2025 bingo card, and frankly, I find it to be deeply unsettling. Before I say anything else, I want to admit that I don't really understand how GLP-1s work.
When I was younger, I would have told you, then don't speak on it. Now all I have to tell you is, then why didn't you look it up before making the video? This isn't some forbidden knowledge located in the Library of Alexandria. You have a phone in your pocket. You have access to the information.
I'm not educated on the subject, and beyond that, when it comes to people that struggle with obesity and struggle with weight-related health issues, I feel I have no right to tell them how to exercise their bodily autonomy, how to address the health-related issues that have come with their weight. Now, of course, I'm placing an emphasis on health-related issues, right? I highly doubt that record-breaking star athlete Serena Williams legitimately qualifies for a GLP-1.
So you can't Google how GLP-1s work, so you decided not to speak on it. That's fair. Now, do you know what information you can't access? Serena Williams' medical records. Yes, yet you chose to speak on that. Interesting. Now, making an assumption about someone's health based on their athletic performance is very irresponsible. In 1968, NFL player Brian Piccolo had his best season. Less than 2 years later, he was dead of cancer.
I'm sure that for a lot of women, the epitome of health is Serena Williams, right? I mean, she is a representation of strength, dedication, tenacity, endurance, hard work. If you emulate even just like 10% of her behavior, I'm sure you'll get healthier in some way, shape, or form. And so to see a woman that I've never seen a picture of Serena and been like, she needs to get smaller. Like, she needs to become a fraction of what she once was. To see a woman with her strength, with her athleticism, not only ingest or take a weight loss drug, but to promote it casually, yeah, it's bothersome.
Well, it's bothersome if you're unaware. Serena Williams retired 3 years ago. She's not training like she used to. She also had a baby, so she definitely wasn't training like she used to. I would be surprised if she didn't put on some weight.
It's deeply bothersome. A rise in fat phobia within our culture does not just come with the normalization of internet subcultures like skinny talk. It also comes with bigotry, because at the end of the day, fat phobia isn't just a fear of being fat, it's a fear of the black body. Using a fit, muscular black woman like Serena Williams to promote a weight loss drug is very, very, very calculated.
Serena Williams is black. She can't escape that. Even if she gets stick thin, she's going to see a black woman in the mirror. Telling a black woman, as someone who's not black, mind you, that they fear the black body, beyond insulting.
Part of the innocence that white women get to claim is directly associated with the body that we associate white women with.
I don't associate white women with any body type because that's weird. Also, we have raw numbers. About a third of white women are obese. Oddly enough, that didn't turn them black.
They're small, they're thin, they're fragile. Even though that's not the case for all white women, that is how we imagine the white woman, right? And so this thinness that white women have.
They don't have it, though. About 34% of white women are obese, 27% are overweight, with the rest being in the normal category. Even within the normal category, 40% still have abdominal obesity. So really, thin white women are the minority amongst white women.
Have is deemed only attainable for them. And yet women of color, specifically black women, are taught that they need to seek that out. They need to work towards that.
A non-black woman telling black women what they're taught. That's a great look.
Even if that thinness will not grant them the same privileges. I also want to be clear.
It doesn't need to. Black people in America have the highest obesity rate. With that, they also have the highest rate of type 2 diabetes, the highest rate of hypertension, and the highest rate of high cholesterol. We don't want white privilege. How about we just not get obesity-related illnesses?
I don't think that black women are tossing and turning in their sleep thinking, I gotta look like the smallest white woman at the Cracker Barrel. But unfortunately, when you give a certain body type power, like the thin white woman, you stigmatize other body types, making it harder for everybody else. 10 years ago, we had white women going under the knife to emulate the stereotypical black body, and now we have an iconic black athlete telling us that she needs to get smaller, and you can too. It's crazy nonsense, and you should recognize it as crazy nonsense.
It's not. It's just not. Serena Williams isn't even the first black retired athlete to talk about struggling with her weight.
Fat phobic, weird nonsense. Women's bodies go in and out of style, and one thing remains the same. Whether it's taxing on your wallet or your health, they're gonna find a way to control you, and you don't have to give in.
Well, that was stupid. Anyway, like, comment, and subscribe, or you ain't black.